Ladies and gentlemen, this is a story that came out in the Boston Globe, February 1st, 2019. Limiting opioid prescriptions will do little to reduce overdose deaths, study says. Now, if you remember, a few days ago, I did a story on them admitting that they can't stop this drug plague that's going on in the country. And it will probably be going on indefinitely. They seriously don't have a solution for this. And they have already tried many things like cutting down on the amounts of scripts that doctors write and making it very difficult even for people that legitimately need the pain pills and they're not abusing it. They're now having to turn to street drugs for their chronic pain. So cutting down on the drug, the overdose deaths are still going through the roof. They have not slowed up, not one bit in all this time. And as you can see, the deaths from these drugs go up every single year. There has not been one year where we have seen a decline. And this is over the last 20 years. The first time they start documenting the opioid plague was 1999. This is 2019. This is 20 years of this without it even showing any signs of slowing down. You know, I get the trolls coming because they get upset that I'm talking about this. But the bottom line is, I don't know why you're so upset. They spoke very openly about the crack epidemic in this country. It was on the news almost every day. They showed it every chance they could get. But us making videos about it, I'm not the only one to make videos about this. There's other people that do these stories too. That's upsetting to you? Okay, y'all some weird people sometimes, but let's get into this. When the death toll from the opioid overdoses began to soar a few years ago, the evidence was clear how it all started: painkiller prescriptions that tripled in the decade, exposing millions of people to the risk of addiction. Policymakers naturally sought to put a lid on opioid prescribing. Now, they already did. Okay. But if you notice, people are now turning heavily to the heroin and fentanyl and cocaine. Those are the drugs people are going after now. You know, it's only going to drive people to the streets if they cannot get a legitimate prescription from a doctor. So now they will go for the illegal drugs. But a study published Friday in JAMA Network Open finds that reducing opioid prescriptions will have little effect on the death rate over the next few years. Now that the epidemic is dominated by heroin and illicit fentanyl. All right, let me just click on here and see what this study is showing. Okay. Prevention of prescription opioid misuse and projected overdose deaths in the United States. So this came out in February 1st, 2019. So I just want to see what they have here. Key points. Question: what is the projected effect of lowering incidence of non-medical prescription opioid use on the future trajectory of the opioid overdose crisis in the United States? Findings. In the system dynamic model A study under current conditions, the opioid overdose crisis is expected to worsen, with the annual number of opioid overdose deaths projected to reach nearly 82,000 by 2025, resulting in approximately 700,000 deaths from 2016 to 2025. Interventions focus on lowering the incidence of prescription opioid misuse were projected to result in a 3.0% to 5.3% decrease in opioid overdose deaths over this period, meaning prevention of prescription opioid misuse alone is projected to have a modest effect on lowering opioid overdose deaths in the near future, and multi-pronged approach is needed to dramatically change the course of the plague, which I actually agree with that answer. As long as you have the illegal drug on the street, you have no chance of lowering anything. You really don't. I just want to go down here. Okay, the results under the status quo, the annual number of opioid overdose deaths is projected to increase from 33,100 in 2015 to 81,700 in 2025. From 2016 to 2025, 700,400 individuals in the United States are projected to die from opioid overdose, with 80% of the deaths attributable to illicit opioids. So that's your fentanyl. The number of individuals using illicit opioids is projected to increase by 61% from 0.93 million in 2015 to 1.50 million across all interventions tested, further lowering the incidence of prescription opioid misuse from 2015 levels is projected to decrease overdose deaths by only 3.0% to 5.3%. Okay. They're talking about putting additional policies in place. Policies is not going to eliminate what's going on out here. I'm just saying, I know they're trying to do all kinds of bills and measures and throwing money at this thing, and it's just not working because those are not the answers. I mean, you would think these people would know this by now, but apparently they don't know this. Or they do know and they're just being willfully ignorant. So let me just see here. Just want to see what else this study says. Okay. Conclusions. We found that under current conditions, the opioid overdose crisis is likely to substantially worsen, and that interventions such as prescription drug monitoring programs are unlikely to lead to major decreases in the number of deaths from opioid overdose in the near future. Given these findings, policymakers will need to take a stronger multi-pronged approach, such as improving access to treatment, expanding harm reduction interventions, and lowering exposure to illicit opioids to curb the trajectory of the opioid overdose plague in the United States. So they're not showing much hope at all in eliminating this thing, or even reducing the amount of people that are overdosing on these drugs. Okay, the study offers a countervailing view at a time when authorities are warning or even prosecuting high prescribing doctors, and numerous state and local governments are suing over the conduct of opioid manufacturers, including whether Purdue Pharma deceptively marketed the popular painkiller OxyContin. Of course they did. It's all about money. They don't care who dies from this stuff. A team that included researchers from Massachusetts General Hospital and Boston Medical Center employed mathematical modeling to project what could happen over the next several years. They predicted that opioid-related mortality nationwide would double or triple from 2015's level, reaching around 82,000 a year in 2025. I think they're lowballing that number, y'all. I don't think I think it's going to be way more than 82,000. You could probably take that number and times it by 5 or 6. That's probably the real true number. But please tell me what you think, ladies and gentlemen. They don't seem very hopeful in stopping all of these overdose deaths. Everything just seems pretty bleak when it comes down to this opioid plague that's going on in the US. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace, family.